We got a special guest today joining us on the Baseball Happenings podcast. We're doing a little bit differently, video style, with our brother Eddie Mata, actor, uh, TV personality, baseball extraordinaire. Eddie, welcome to the program, brother.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Great intro right there.
Well, man, I've been following what you're doing for a long time, and people who might not be familiar with you, that are watching and listening, I think the first question that comes to our head is, who is Eddie Mata?
Well, the question is, what I want to pitch my show is called "Who the Hell is Eddie Mata?" and it's Nontourage versus Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's what my show's about. He's a nobody surrounded with stars, but always fails when they give him an opportunity, and he always runs into bad luck.
Sometimes we say if it wasn't for bad luck, we'd have, no luck at all. Why does a character like that, appeal to you, for what you're trying to do?
Well, it's based on my life, to be honest with you, but it's gonna be over fantasized stuff as far as the conflicts in the script, and the script is ready. It's just the fact that I want to pitch it to TV studios, and it shows, like Netflix. One of those streaming services would be great, and this is what I want to do, and this is the reason why I started this show, the Eddie Mata Show, is because I want to show these guys that, hey, I am a lovable character. I am a lovable person, and I could get stars on my show. As you can see, the show that I have now is called the Eddie Mata Show, and I have 24 guests since April 10th, and it's going well, man. It's just like there's nothing to do. I love acting. I love auditioning. I love doing all that stuff. I love reading plays, which I still do, but when you're stuck, especially in New York City, we were stuck for 3 months on lockdown. People don't
Yep.
people don't realize what lockdown means in New York City compared to other states. There's other states that I'm talking.
Lights went out.
Huh?
The lights went out.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm just saying to myself, lockdown in New York City means no restaurants are open. Times Square is empty. Okay? You can't do nothing. So, but, then I hear other states are like, oh, yeah, the restaurants are open. We just pick up. I'm like, well, we didn't have that for 3 months. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so I started the show. I wanted, just to say, you know what? There's nothing else to do. Let me go to my second talent and shoot the shit with my actors and athletes and human beings like you.
Yeah, man. And, I think that really comes out. And I think that New York spirit of like making something maybe out of nothing. And, here you are, sitting around and you're like, all right, how can I make something jump off? And, you went back to what you did, what you did best. And that's, kicking it. And I've watched the program and watched how so many of these athletes and celebrities have, opened up to you. What do you think it is, about how you come across that, makes a guy, let's say, Darryl Strawberry just really start pouring his heart out for you, brother?
My objective is, look, we are humans, You guys could talk to me. The biggest thing with me, I think it's my introduction. I'm very charming, as you can see, when I introduce people. I think that makes them feel comfortable. But I do it from my heart, man, because I love shooting the shit with people, man. I'm a people's person. I could talk to anybody. You know what I mean? I'm that guy. You know what I mean? It's like I'll find something, and I love that, and it's so much fun, man. I'm not shy, man. I am not shy. A lot of these people come up to me like, Eddie, how are you not shy? How are you so comfortable? And I'm like, I don't know, man. That's just, I don't know.
Tell us a situation or a time or a story when like you've been able to like kind of use your charm to finesse your way into a situation that maybe you didn't think was possible.
Well, first of all, when it comes to guys like Darryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden and guys that have that had a drug problem, before I protect my athletes and actors. That's one thing about me.
Yep.
I am not that guy to sell out on them. That's not my style. 15 minutes before the interview, I literally asked them, I'm saying, hey, listen, is there anything you're uncomfortable that you don't want to talk about? And I'll tell you one thing, Strawberry and, and Doctor, like, Eddie, you better ask me about everything. And I'm like, you
Mhm.
serious? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, I'll do that then, So, but throughout like with other people, they open up to me. I'm very specific. I like to ask, you watch my interviews. I'm more of a guy that it's conversational. It's shooting the shit, right? But instead of a person asking a question like, "Hey, how was the audition?" It was, they'll be like, "Oh, it was good," and then they move on. Me, I'm the type of guy that I would say, "Hey, what did Robert De Niro ask you to do at the audition?" That's what I want to know exactly. I think that's more interesting than being general.
Yeah, definitely. Right? Because anybody could ask those like who, what, where, when, and why questions.
Yeah,
But we
and
want to get to like how things are going and like how things are happening, you know?
yeah, and I'm really specific, and I paint the picture. I think that's one of the things that I really do well is that I work on it, and it's paying off. Is like really painting the picture, man. It's like when I ask a big leaguer, you're in AAA, man. Where were you when you got that phone call that you're starting tomorrow at Wrigley Field, man? How who what did they tell you exactly? That's what I want to know, man. Because it's a feeling
Right.
right there. It's a feeling like, oh, holy shit, I felt this guy, man. I'm really feeling this guy.
Yeah. And I think that connection is evident and needed. Um, you know, I kind of came to know you through baseball, and I'm talking a long while back.
Mm-hmm.
For the listeners, and you have a really great story about leaving New York City and making your way in Florida, which is not an easy move for for a ball player. What was that like for you leaving the city and having to make it basically on your own in a place where New Yorkers aren't always like the best received?
Well, here's the thing. South Florida, by the way, West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, it's all New Yorkers, just to let you know.
Of course, I meant on the field, brother. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, they love the New Yorker in me. Like back then I used to talk like this. Yo, I can't believe this thing. You know what I'm saying? Like they kind of love that. So that helped out a lot, and then the talent helped out a lot. Like I said, when I meet people, I don't care where I'm at. You can send me to Oklahoma. I'll make friends. You know what I mean? For me, it doesn't take talent to communicate. And some people tell me, well, Eddie, it does for a lot of people. For me, it doesn't. So going down to South Florida, the competition, it's competitive down there because these cats play all year round. You know, so I was like, man, but I love it. I love being on the diamond every day. I love the 95 degrees weather and humidity. Like I love that. Matter of
I don't think people have to realize like you have to love that to really be in the game, right?
fact,
And really to get better at it because guys that don't love it, right, they're gonna stay in the same spot.
yeah, you gotta love that hot weather, man. It's like, and you're wearing that uniform. The fact is that I am blessed, and the people around me that are blessed that can actually play, man. There's people that are disabled that can't play. They dream to be in our shoes. You know what I mean? So like, I love working out in hot 95-degree weather outside. I don't care. By the way, you burn more calories that way. So might as well do it.
Sure, and I think that's like really what is a separator of those guys that that want to work and don't want to work, and you know you had a chance to play amongst a lot of guys that went pro and against guys that went pro, and I'm sure you had a chance, to have tryouts and things like that. What did you learn around being around pros in, that arena, playing and competing against them?
When I met a lot of big leaguers and former big leaguers, it's the questions that I would you know ask them is like, hey, what's your approach, what's your preparation coming on the diamond, what time do you show up? Let's say the game starts at 7 p.m. What time are you at the park? So I learned a lot at a young age, even though I never made it to the big leagues. you know but I had a great college career. playing college baseball down in South Florida at a small school, Palm Beach Atlantic University, and it was great, man. I mean, it was so much fun, and preparation, man. Just the approach. I remember when I met Mike Piazza down there. I met a lot of guys, man. There's some names that you probably know them, but it was Piazza. I had Bucky Dent. I had and they just taught me the mental approach of the game. We know you're talented. You're there down in South Florida for a reason, but just the approach and the preparation was the key, and that's what.
How have you taken, yeah, and how have you taken that over to acting? Because a lot of that stuff sounds the same as what's going to make a good actor: the approach, the preparation, the methods.
Yeah,
Yeah, how have you taken those lessons you learned from playing ball and carried them with you to
my act.
create that package?
Yeah, my acting teacher. When I got interviewed for this program, it's a Meisner Technique at the Maggie Flanagan Studio, the Conservatory Acting School. When he interviewed me, I said, "Look, man, I want you to be honest with me. I want you to really be straight up with me. If I suck, just please tell me. I could take it. I'm a true New Yorker. You know what I mean? Because, you know,
Oh, worst.
yeah, it's like, look, a lot of people say the truth hurts. It's gonna hurt, but it's gonna get me better. But the best compliment he gave me is that every day when I got to school, and it was a 2 year program full time, my hours were was unreal. Put it this way, I couldn't even watch sports those 2 years. Like it was, yeah, and me without sports. Think about it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could watch, I could peek in it for a highlight, but after that, hell no. It's like, all right, back to the craft. You know, and the best compliment my acting teacher, and he's really hard on me, was his name is Charlie Sandlin. He says that you took the approach like an athlete every day, prepared and going all out. And as an actor, to me, I needed the training. I needed to get out of a New Yorker. I could go back to it. I could hide it now. But I really needed that. And you know what? Being an athlete, being a former athlete, now I'm not saying I'm a big leaguer, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying I played, the Little League, high school, summer league, college baseball, and then after that, when I didn't get drafted, I'm like, okay, I'll play in the men's league that's very competitive in New York City.
Yeah.
I mean? And um, the acting part, it's the same thing, man. Every day you come to school, it's the same thing. You're coming and out to the park every day, man. That's how it was. And it wasn't just acting. It was voice and speech. It was physicality. It was movement. I mean, listen. But I loved it. I fucking loved it, man. You know what I mean? It was fun. It reminded me of an athlete again because you know what? You can't play baseball the rest of your life. And the reason I love
Right.
acting, it's an art, but also you're playing, baby. All right, today I'm going to be a heroin addict. Tomorrow I'm going to be a degenerate gambler. You know what I'm saying? The next time I'm going to be a loving father, a loving husband, whatever, So it's the same thing as being an athlete if you really, really care about the craft and want to get better.
Oh, like no doubt, right? And I'm not in that space, but I think a lot of people can relate to that. That you have to dedicate to that craft, and you have to go in with that mentality, and face things that are tough and fail, and you might not like do well in one role one day, but then you wake up and you try to bounce back and be like, what can I improve on? And you
Yeah.
come, to the studio right, ready to go with that attitude, and I think that's going to carry people, a lot of the way. And from us talking, like just what you've been able to do in the last few months, speak to that in terms of, right, everything got shut down. And I don't think people realize how difficult that is for an actor when everything goes dark, as it did here in New York City for the last few months. And now, like, you can't train, right? You can't do auditions, you can't pitch yourself. What was going through your mind during that time of when everything shut down for you, as an actor? Because you told me, right, there was just this complete like stop of momentum.
Yeah, you know what? I was hot this year. I had like January, February, I had callbacks and I was on hold. And I was like, oh man, it's like, okay, acting school is paying off now. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, I'm hot now. But man, once middle of March, or like the beginning of March, it was like, Eddie, Hollywood, everything is shut. And I'm saying to myself, oh my God, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna maintain this? How am I gonna maintain your instrument, which is me, my crafting? Okay, I would read plays, but I'm like, I need more. I need people around me. I need something. So I said, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna do this show called the Eddie Mata Show, and I'm gonna get actors and athletes because my old show way back, it was a show called Where Are They Now in Sports, right? But it's so limited because first of all, it's only former athletes. That's it. So I said, let me learn from other actors what their approach is and what they do. And that's why I was really busy the past 3 months and with the show that I have, the Eddie Mata show. And it's crazy because you learn from these actors their approach, and you know how I am very specific with my questions, man. The conversation is like, you know it's an ordinary day in Hollywood. It's like my boy Nicholas Gonzalez from The Good Doctor. Talk to me about the approach. You know what I mean? What did you do exactly? So I learned from these guys. So I'm crafting from these guys too. You know what I mean? And when I interviewed Vincent D'Onofrio, my last interview last week, I asked him, I said, hey, me as an actor, I craft all the time. Like, I'm walking in the city or wherever I'm at, I'm crafting, I'm visualizing, I'm imagining. You do the same shit? And he goes, absolutely. You know what I mean? And it's not that he has a role coming up. It's just he keeps, enhancing his craft. And that's what you got to do as an actor. You got to keep imagining. Well, what if I was on this train and I would just have a bomb and throw it in there? You know what I mean? Like when you play that crazy guy, you know?
Right, right,
What would I
right.
do? And I'm visualizing and I'm like, oh, and I would do, and to make it human, you just gotta add parts to it. It's like a skeleton, and then you gotta add the organs to make him human. But he's still human. He don't have to act crazy. Inside, he's crazy, but he's still human, and the humanity is what has to come out.
You brought up a wonderful point of being around here in the city and visualizing, and there's so many characters in the city. You could walk up and down the street and just see so many people that sparks interest and sparks creativity. Um, you know, Explain to the people how New York City provides that backdrop for inspiration because of the variety and diversity that we have here.
You know, we have a huge diversity here, and I study accents when I hear people with different languages. Like, if I hear an Israeli person talking Hebrew, I could I could hear that the 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 like the word three, they say sri, so the th is s. You see,
Yeah.
so you hear that, and then when I hear a Russian guy talking, you could hear that the W is a V and the V is a W. So when they say we say where as an American, they say ver. You see, with the V. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? If they say Veronica, they say Veronica. You know what I mean? Like this. So, I study accents like that. And also, I really see when people are really, really upset or really, really angry or really, really have so much joy. So you really have to commit to that to be like, okay, well, what gives me joy? So, for instance, I'll give you an example. If there's an emotional preparation that gives me joy, and what's gonna trigger me as far as what gives me joy is that, okay, well, let's just say, oh, what's going on here? Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, hold on, man. Yeah, what gives me joy? Let me just get rid of this mail. Let me just quit this app. Yeah. All right. Here, I'll start all over. What gives me joy is that, let's just say, My agent called me and says, "Hey, De Niro picked you. You're his right hand man in the film." And I'm like, "Oh my god." Wait, hold on a minute. You know what I mean? But I'm so excited. You know what I mean? I'm so happy. But then check this out. The emotion changes because the Meisner technique, we're all about you. Okay? So let's say you're my brother and I'm so happy. I want to share the news. I open the door, or you open the door, and all of a sudden I see it. You're a little like upset. And let's say the line is, "How are you?" I wouldn't be like, "How are you?" I took you in, so I'm like, I'm all happy, I'm all excited, but all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, how are you?" See what I mean? So it's like, what's going on here?
Hmm.
So that's the Meisner technique. What I learned in this technique is that I'm all about you. I have to listen to you. 110% is listening. And then what am I trying to achieve? And how am I going to do it? It's a whole thing, but I'm just saying the bedrock of acting in the Meisner technique, you better listen. It's all about the other person, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I learned. And back to the city, it's like when I see people, I really learn how they walk. Oh man, I study people how they walk. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
I study all that, how, their posture, and sometimes you don't want to imitate it, but you got to find it what's going to work for you that looks truthful. But I'll do that in the city. Like if I don't, when the guy, like I if I'm walking behind him and I'm really watching him how he walks, the footwork, the arms, everything. I'm crazy like that, man. I study characters like that. you know?
Yeah, but there's something to learn and something to pick up off everyone. It's just like when you're playing, right? Like the
Yeah.
guys to the left and right of you, like you could pick up something in their swing, what they do on the field. Like you said, their footwork. But now, your pool is millions, right? There's millions of people here, that you could pass daily and, pick up little bits to take with you to bring into what you're doing.
Oh yeah. There was one time I actually filmed a heroin addict from behind while he was slumping. A heroin addict will go. What they do is they'll just look like this. They'll look, and then they just. And when they're like that, when they slump like that, it's crazy how their footwork. You think they're gonna fall, but they're not. You
Yeah, they're like the most rock solid, balanced, half leaned over person you'll ever see.
Yeah, and I'm like, yo, this dude's about to collapse. If I didn't know acting, I'm like, oh my god, this guy's gonna fall. But when you see them high like that, and then they'll just slump, and then all of a sudden they'll get up, they'll look, they'll walk a little bit, and I follow them too. It's crazy. I got my cell phone. I kind of film it, and then I go over it, the footwork. How are they maintaining this slump? Because you don't want to be like, you don't want to imitate, because that's caricature. So
Mm-hmm.
then, when I'm on my own, I go home and I practice that. What works for me as far as the physicality.
Because you never know when you'll be asked to play the role of a heroin addict, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I want to be prepared.
Eddie, you talked about having to learn how to take like the New Yorker out of what you're doing, and as New Yorkers, like we think at times the world revolves around us, and they have to adjust to us, and when you get into acting, you realize like you have to make that adjustment because the role's not always going to be that you need to have that pronounced Brooklyn accent. What'd you learn from that experience of having to kind of train yourself out of being, Mr. New York, so that you don't get pigeonholed into those roles?
Yeah, that's the one thing that I regret in my life is when I moved to LA in 2008, I didn't really have a the training. I didn't have the conservatory acting school and a good school. You know what I mean? Like a good school, a training. And every time I would audition in LA, they're like, "Hey, I love that New York accent. Did you create that?" And I'm like, "Nah, that's just me." They're like, "Oh, can you do General American?" And I'm like, "All right, I'll try." I sounded like shit, man. It didn't go right. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my god. And I was so upset. I was so like, I want to change that. You know what I mean? I want to be like, I want to be a true artist. And my next door neighbor, he's the Black Panther now, Chadwick, and we were
Hmm.
talking. And I said, Chadwick, man, I want to be like you, man. How do you portray these characters? This was when he got Jackie, and then I was impressed when he got the movie James Brown. Get up on it, something like that.
Right.
And we talked for like an hour, and he says, a conservatory acting school will be great. Only train in London and New York City. It's the best, and
Hmm.
you you could get out of this guy, you know, and I did it, man. I said I don't want to regret later on in life that I should have, could have, and I went to school, and then I did a play last summer, and I portrayed Thurman Munson, and his wife. I met her at Yankees fantasy camp, and I asked,
Diana's wonderful.
yeah, and I asked her, and I said, listen, does this sound like your husband? You could tell me yes or no. I'm not gonna, don't be nice. Tell me if I do. And I did it. I did his voice and speech, and she says, "Eddie, that is him. That's exactly like him."
Man, you can't buy that.
Yeah, So that gave me. I was like, "Oh my god," because she wasn't at the play. She couldn't make it. But the fact that when I met her and she told me, "Yes, that is him, Eddie," you kind of gave me an emotion. Wow, like. And what I did was I went to my voice and speech coach and I said, I want to sound like this guy. Get me this guy. I don't give a shit. Get me him. And we were practicing. I thought that, the voice, you're deeper over here. If you sound
Right.
like, hey, last time I went to this guy and, then if you go here, you're like, a little deeper. Hey, how are you? You go here, now you're like a little higher. It's like, hey, what's happening? Hey, or if you go over here, it's like, hey there, what are you? Where you going? Like Joe Pesci, like, hey, you going? So you practice that, and I found it, and then I had to do a little Midwestern, a little bit, because he's from Canton, Ohio, and I did that, and it went well, man.
Man, what was that like playing, Thurman? He's such a legendary figure, and I know you enjoy the Yankees, and was that an emotional experience? Was that like a real big high for you? What was that like portraying somebody who holds that kind of weight in Yankees history?
Man, I never watched him play, because I was born in 75. He died 79. So I
Mm.
didn't really remember him playing. But the fact that what I learned about him, what hurt the most is when Diana got the phone that her husband died in an airplane crash. I don't know. You want me to save this? Hold on a minute.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like that noise in your background. Um,
Yeah.
what hurt the most with that role is for his family because he was with his family right before they were just hanging out like a family, and then when she got the phone call that hey, your husband went down, he died, that hurt the most, man. And I really, really was feeling the kid's pain and her pain. That's even though like it hurt when they show the highlights when the news Thurman Munson has that when I watched that because in my play when I died, um, you're in the backstage and you're looking at the highlights, and to me that gave me tears on my own because I was thinking about Diana. You know, he's gone, and that's the worst thing that if any family member could experience and say that your loved one that is two words, he's gone or she's gone, and that hurts the most.
Yeah, because you expected him to come back.
Right, exactly. He was a family man, and the key thing, he loved his family, man. He grew up with Diana. He met her, back in middle school, elementary, or high school, one of those. And it's like the fact that he loved this woman and his kids, the fact that he bought a plane to, fly to uh, Canton to see his family, hang out with them, and then the next day he flies back to New York to play, is like, how many people that have done that.
Mhm.
So, and he didn't
Yeah.
want. And here's the thing: I asked Diana. It's like he didn't want you to move to New York because why? He goes, and I said, was it because of the Summer of Sam? Because you know how New York City in the '70s
Oh yeah.
bad,
Yeah.
man.
Right.
You know,
Well, it's kind of like that now. It's getting that way.
yeah, exactly. So it was bad back then. So, and that shows the character of Thurman is that he really cared about his family. He wanted his family safe, so he made them stay in Ohio, where they grew up.
And that's rare. A lot of players, they take their families around the country,
Mm-hmm.
and there's this really nomadic life of being a professional baseball player. And every few years, you might have to move, or every year, depending on where you go. And it's really tough on a family. And he made that decision, right, to keep them,
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah. So
separated.
yeah. So that was my experience playing a legendary guy that I never met. But man, did I do my research. I do a lot of research when I do characters. You know, when people say play drunk, well, people overdo it because think about it. You and I, when we get buzzed, do we really want to act like we're buzzed?
Right. You're trying to hide it.
You're trying to hide it, exactly. So
Right.
it's what I mean. So that's what people don't understand. The the humanity of being a drunk is that you're trying to hide. You're not trying to be like, hey.
No, you're trying to function.
Exactly. So but you could hear it. You could hear it here and there in the voice a little bit. We know the guy's, the person's buzz. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But you're not consistently because you're trying to get out of that shit. So
Right. So it's the way that you have to bring it in. Keeping it Yankees, you talked about having a chance to be in the Yankees fantasy camp. What was that like for you to put on the uniform for a week?
oh my god.
I can't imagine that. You step out onto Steinbrenner Field and you got the pinstripes on and your name's on the scoreboard, like Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, right? Ever
Oh
picture this? Like,
yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying?
Listen, man. I can honestly say I was in the big leagues for one whole week at the age of 44. It was the
Mhm.
best time of my life. I remember the story how fantasy camp started. Mickey Mantles suggested to Steinbrenner, "Hey, won't you do a thing called fantasy camp and you know have campers? All the money that they pay is going to be towards donation." And Steinbrenner was like, "You know what? I'm going to do that." So he had a meeting and he told his staff, "I'm telling you right now, when we do this, you're going to treat them like a big leaguer, and I mean the big leagues. The uniforms." You wash their uniforms, the clubhouse feel, the trainer's room, massaging their legs. You're in the hot the tub. You got the whirlpool. You know what I mean? You're in the big leagues, my man. And I was like, holy shit! The small things like that. We all know we're gonna play baseball, but those little
Right.
things like that when you wake up the next day and the clubhouse is gorgeous, and you go to your locker and it says Eddie Mata. You know what I mean? With my number 23 and my
Yeah.
uniform, it's all hung, and I'm like, damn, this is what it's like. Holy shit! Like spoiled. We were spoiled, man.
Oh, people don't realize that a lot of like major leaguers tell me one of the things that they miss and they have trouble adjusting to is when they leave the game is that is having somebody, take care of their itineraries, take care of their clothing, the food spreads. They don't have to think a lot about where they have to be. Everything is set up for them. And when
Oh
they
yeah.
leave, a lot of them struggle tremendously with that because, they know for those 6 months when they go to the ballpark, everything's set up, including the travel.
Everything is organized, man. You don't have to carry your bag. everything is there for you, my man. So that's the best time. And I tell people, look, you don't have to be a good ball player. We got guys in their 50s, 60s going. The experience, talking to Charlie Hayes, you know, Marcus Timms, you know, you got Jim Leyritz there, you got Jesse Barfield. You have some good, solid former Yankees just shooting the shit, hanging out with them, then going out with them at night. You're in the big leagues, brother. you know?
Yeah. You get that experience for a week, and hearing from those guys that were there. What was like the craziest thing that you heard that you're willing to share from one of the ball players, that you feel like you're at liberty to share, that like, this was a great story they told me, and it was kind of crazy, but I think I can share it.
You know, the crazy story, and Mike Gallego, he tells great stories.
And he played with everyone. Remember, he was with like McGuire and Canseco and all those guys in
Yeah.
Oakland too.
But the story he told me, I was like, yo, give me a Mattingly story right now, Gags. And him and I, we click. We were like, I got his cell number. He goes, Eddie, anytime you need tickets, you're in Anaheim, let me know. I come to New York. I'll, make sure you hit me up.
Mm.
But it was a Sunday morning at Yankee Stadium. It was a 1:00 game. And Gallego's like, man, I've been slumping all week. Thank God for my defense, but I got to get my shit together. So he comes to the park around 7 a.m. 7 a.m. for a 1:00 game.
That's early.
He wants to get some reps in. He wants to go to the batting cages. But all of a sudden, he hears a noise. Like while he's walking towards it, he's like, man, who the hell's there at this time? But you don't hear the person hitting the ball. You just hear the machine. Just the balls are coming out. A ball's coming out, and it hits the backstop. And all of a sudden, he sees Mattingly, and Mattingly's all sweating hard. And what Mattingly's doing is that he's just taking pitches and just concentrating. He's just going like this. Boom. He's not swinging. And guy goes like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just working on my focusing technique. Just to focus on the baseball, not hitting it. So he's like, man, are you almost done? He's like, yeah, I got one more bucket. And he's like, you just started? He's like, nah, this is my fourth bucket. There's like 300 baseballs. In not a bucket, what do you call it? What's that, the big ass thing?
Yeah, I know what you mean. In the machine, you got to like put it in the hopper or what have you. Yeah.
So I was like, holy shit. And that's a story that I was like, wow, Mattingly worked hard, man. So I was really, and then, yeah, this is out of fantasy camp, but I met Mattingly. I don't know if you've seen that video when I imitated his batting swing at Citi Field. I'll send it to you. But I was shooting the shit with Mattingly, and we were having so much fun. I was like, yo, Donnie, and people like, Eddie, you come up to a legendary Yankee, like you know him for years, and this is the first time you met him, and you imitate his swing, and you shoot the shit, and he loves you. And I was like, yeah, I'm being myself. I'm not, I'm not threatening. I'm not like, oh my God, Mattingly, you know what I mean?
Right. You don't want anything from him, and I think
Yeah.
guys disarm a little bit when they see you don't want anything, as opposed to maybe having your hand out a signature, or tickets, a bat, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and
I don't care
you just
about
want to kick. Yeah. My friend worked covered the Marlins, and he said that Mattingly was like really awesome to the press, and really good guy to talk to, and funny, and all those things.
Oh yeah, so humble, man, so humble. And then 2 weeks later, I have a sports agent down in Florida. He says, "Hey Skip, he was at the Marlins game. He goes, hey, 2 weeks ago in New York, some guy tried to imitate your swing. He's like, oh, Eddie Mata, I love that guy." And I was like, what? Magny said that about me? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh my God. So then I met him again in September. And he's like, oh, Eddie, come here. Just shooting the shit on the field.
Yeah, Mattingly's one of the good guys, man. Really, really is. You can't say that about every ball player, but Mattingly definitely one of the best. Eddie, speaking of like baseball, a while back, I don't know to go backwards, but a while back, um, you were in contention for MLB. Now MLB had like the fan, or I can't think of
Yeah,
the program, but
it was a
right, I know that you were like one of finalists, right, for for that fan experience. Where I think you were going to stay up at the MLB headquarters here,
no.
and
I actually did that. Yeah, they selected me. But let me tell you something with another story
yeah,
I got. I'll get to that story.
yeah,
The
yeah.
guy
'Cause
that
I
I
thought it was pretty
met,
cool.
that I talked 2 hours, was Barry Bonds.
No,
Yeah,
where?
we were in West LA Little League because while I was in LA, I was giving batting lessons, and then
Mhm.
that was my income. I have like 5 lessons a day, making $85 a lesson. So instead of bartending or waiting tables, I was giving batting lessons in LA. That was my job. And there's nothing
Yeah,
against bartending, but most of the actors, they become waiters or bartending. I get it. It's night during the day you audition. So I was at West LA Little League. I'm wearing my Yankee jacket because in California it gets chilly at night, especially in March. And I was like, he came up to me and he just gave me an urban hug. He thought I was one of the parents, I guess, but I wasn't. So I said, "Man, yo, you look familiar from somewhere." And he's looking at me, and I'm like, "I don't know, man." I'm like, "Wait a minute, are you that lefty from Arizona State that hit bombs?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Man, you fucking New Yorkers just know how to fuck with people, don't you?" And I'm like, "Oh, come on, Barry, that was a good one." He's like, "Yeah, it was. Sit down, let's talk." We talked 2 hours of hitting. 2 hours. Like we were connected. We were bugging out.
that is rare because I've heard mixed things about Barry.
And you know
What
what?
did what did what did you take away from that though? Because he I saw a video of him when he was coaching with the Marlins and breaking down like small stuff on hitting,
Mm-hmm.
and he's on point. I mean, obviously he's on point. What
What
did you pick up from talking to
what
Barry?
what I picked up from Barry, I was like, how come all these people were saying, "Oh, Barry Bonds is horrible. He's not good with the media. He's not this and that." First of all, let me tell you something about Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds has to know you very well for him to trust you. Because there was a situation in the 90s in San Francisco when someone asked him for an autograph and they asked him and they said, "Listen, this is for a kid that has cancer." But it wasn't. The guy was selling it on eBay. That's what bothered Barry Bonds the most.
Mm,
So then he had to limit himself. Okay, how can I trust people now? That was the difference with Barry Bonds. When my experience with him, great guy, charismatic, and even got better. The premiere, the movie $1 Million Arm,
yep.
I saw Barry Bonds. It's called a red carpet, but it was a green carpet because it's a baseball film.
All right. All right.
I go, "Yo, Barry, what's up?" He's like, "Oh shit, what's happening?" Like, "You remember me?" He's like, "Hell yeah, I remember you, man." I was like, "Yo, I need a picture." He goes, "Absolutely." Boom. I was like, "All right, go do your thing." There you go. That's my point right there.
Right.
But
Right. Once again, it's about that disarming of folks.
but here's the thing. He trusted me. I'm not here to bury him. You know what I mean? I didn't interview him. It just he remember how I approached him when I made that joke with the Arizona State. It wasn't a joke. It was just I wanted to mess with her. I wanted to tease him. But how many
Yeah.
regular human beings would do that to Barry Bonds? They get scared.
Right.
Like, "Oh my God, it's Barry Bonds. Oh my God." Forget that. I'm the type of guy, it's like, you know what? I'm going to get humor out of this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
And I hope people, watching this and listening, find that, and you should check out, the Eddie Mata show, because Eddie's able to bring this out of all the people that he interviews because of that realness, and just being able to talk to them. And Alan Watson, who lives locally, right? Alan played with Barry, and Alan's got some really great stories of you know being his teammate on the Giants, and
mhm,
facing him. And Alan's got some funny stories, about Barry. And whenever I catch Alan,
mhm. I,
he's always got something good on deck.
I love Barry Bonds. I don't care what people say, if he was on it or not. I don't care. I'll tell you right now. The guy didn't need to do it because I'll tell you right now, before 2000, the dude had over 400 home runs, 400
Mhm.
stolen bases, 400 doubles. The dude was a monster. You know what I'm saying? Like he was raw talent, worked very hard. That I know because I know stories about his work ethic. But he's a great guy to me. My experience with Barry, I think, is because I was raw with him. I was authentic. I was real. I wasn't trying to hide anything. You know, I was just shooting the shit with him. Think of
Mhm.
Eddie Mata. Who the hell is Eddie Mata? Talk,
There we go. We're back on that
yeah,
again. Yeah.
talking to Barry Bonds and like Barry Bonds connecting with me for 2 hours. Where do you get that opportunity?
Only the Yamato show.
Exactly.
Right? But you know, it's true. Eddie, you know, you were going to tell us about your experience
Yeah.
with the MLB.
So with the MLB fan cave, I actually made it.
Yeah.
I was there for 3 months. Um, I told them at the audition, I'm like, look, I'm not trying to get recognition. I'm putting acting on the side for 1 year. The fact that I could say that I was part of Major League Baseball, that's one of the goals that I really want to accomplish. You know, I wasn't looking for recognition. I didn't give a shit. The fact that I'm part of baseball on my resume, I could say I work for Major League Baseball. That was a great experience, you know. And I had a lot of fun. Guys would come in, but I'll tell you one thing: it's long hours, man, because you got to watch
Oh,
every game. And remember, you got the West Coast games. They start
yep.
10 p.m. our time. So then you're thinking, okay, it's fast. It's the eighth inning, 2-1 game. Next thing you know, the guy walks a batter with 2 outs. You're like, oh shit, pass ball, man on second.
It's
You're
a
like, oh
change.
no, pitching change. But then the next thing you know, a guy hits a single, tie game. Now you got 14 inning game. You're out of there by 3 a.m. You got to resume the Sunday game, which is, all the game starts at 1. So, it was really long hours, man. Long.
And besides watching all the games, what else did they expect of you to to do? I know that was one of the things you had to watch all the games. Did you have to write them up or report on them?
Yeah, that was the headache. I wasn't a social media guy. It's all Twitter, and I'm like, oh my God, and do this, do that. It was a great experience watching the game, but what they really wanted was it was like a marketing team. You got
Right.
9 people, and we all tweet, oh my God, just ran into Justin Verlander. Oh my God, just ran into who came by. We partied with the Arizona Diamondbacks that night. And it's crazy. Who was that solid ass second baseman? Played for the Blue Jays. Went to LSU. Oh, I forgot.
Oh, Warren. No, yeah. What Warren? Was it Warren something or other? I
No,
think it
is it
was
Aaron
that.
something? Aaron something? The last name or the first name? I forgot his name.
Okay, right.
We
I remember you talking about.
Yeah, we connected. This is another great story. We're at the MLB fan cave, which it was in Manhattan, on Broadway and I think it was 4th Street or 8th Street, one of them.
I'm passing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, yo, we connected. We were bugging out that night, and I'm like, yo, what's up? What's going on? He goes, I'm great. It's like I'm kind of slumping. I'm like, well, what the hell are you thinking about? He's like, that's exactly. I'm thinking too much. I'm like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, just think up the middle, go right side. Come on now. He goes, yeah, you're right. Next day at City Field, he hits a home run straight away center. you know,
You fed him some tips. There you
yeah.
go.
And you know what is another thing about connecting with people? Know their language within their occupation. Know their language. When you know their language, like talking baseball like that, they will love you. Whether it's an actor, musician, know their language.
Yeah, and
Yep.
the interview said you do, man. Like you have the language in both of it, and
Mm-hmm.
the players could see that. Like, hey, this guy probably played the game at some point and knows what
Oh
he's
yeah.
talking about, and you're not asking like all fan questions, right? And it's okay. Like you can sit there and ask like, well, yo, what was it like when Charlie Hayes when you caught that last out and everyone's going nuts in New York City? What's it like as that ball's dropping in your glove? Fine, everybody wants to know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Right?
Uh-huh.
But you're not asking them just like it's like you said, standard ass question.
Yeah, it's what I asked Charlie, I was like, the pop up before when he landed in the dugout, I was like, nobody helped you. I was like, nope. It's like, weren't you scared shit going in there? He's like, hell yeah, but I got to catch that baseball. But no Braves is going to be like a regular game. You know how the opposing dugout, the players will try to grab the guy, make sure he don't get hurt.
Yeah.
Not with Charlie. Hell no.
Yeah, they were like, yeah,
This is the World Series. Hell no. you know.
yeah. Good luck, bro. His son's a good ball player. We're gonna see him in a major league soon. Brian Hayes.
Yeah. He's gonna be a big league. He's gonna last too.
Yeah.
He has the discipline. He knows what he wants, man. And that's a prime example of a kid that has that focus. Like, and yeah, his dad played, but his dad could do just so much. Just talk to him like a human being. Hey, approach, do it this way or try. He won't. Charlie's the type of guy, he won't try to correct his son unless his son comes up to him and says, "Dad, I'm struggling. What do you think?"
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes a great a father-son relationship. It's like
Right.
if the kid says, "Hey, this is what's going on. I need a little tips." That's when the father will come in and be like, "Okay, you know what? Try it this way." But Charlie Hayes is not the type of guy that tells his son, "No, you got to do it this way. You got to do it this way." No, So you don't want to confuse the kid too. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, they have their own people that they got to please in the organization, and you going behind a hitting coach's back. Well, I call my father, and
Right.
who do you listen to? And for some players, it creates a real shitstorm, and they could wind up on somebody's whatever bad list. It only takes one or two guys in an organization to be like, hey, this kid's a problem.
Yeah.
Not saying, I mean, they got a lot of money invested in him, right? He was like a high draft pick,
Yeah. But being a hitting instructor, a batting instructor, is that the less the better.
Mm.
Hey, just you're opening up too soon with the shoulder. Shut up. That's it. Hey, you're just rolling your hands. You're coming in and out of the zone. That's it. Nothing else. You're in the big leagues, man. They're there for a reason. I mean,
right? They can hit.
They can hit. It just there's sometimes you're a little off timing. Hey, your timing's a little off. Get the bat head out just a quicker. That's it. Shut up. When I interviewed Dan Schulman, you know what I noticed about him? He appreciated this. I said, Dan, when you announce the game, especially a baseball, I notice that when a guy hits a home run, you're kind of silent. And this is what I mean. Here's a prime example. Dan Schulman's the type of guy that he'll be like, and that's, well, he says, hit hard towards left field, gone. With excitement, but then he shuts up. He wants the viewers to really feel the crowd celebrating, the sound of the crowd, like, and so the viewers could be like, wow, oh my God, I wish I was there. That's it. Some announcers, they keep going and going and going. Just shut up.
Oh, man. Yeah, let them talk. I mean, let the play talk.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I learned from Dan Schulman.
Well, I think the same thing too. When you're doing an interview, right? Like I like to try not to cut off my subjects when I'm talking to them because I want to let them get it out and let it resonate.
Well, that's back to acting school. The Meisner Technique is the listening. You have two ears and one mouth. Your two ears have more power than your mouth because the only way you're going to be truthful if you listen. It's the same thing when you hit on a girl. It's the same thing. Don't interrogate her. What's with the interview questions? Right? Think about it.
Right, of course.
Yeah. Go charm
come
her.
Out to go on a job interview.
Right. Go make her laugh. Charm her. Connect with her. Not, and where you from? And what's this, a press conference? You know what I'm saying? Like, charm her. Connect with her. Same thing when you're interviewing. Connect with the person. Instead of, I watch some of these interviews and they'll have their index cards, which no problem with that. But here's the problem. Watch this. They'll be like, so you grew up in Brooklyn. What was that like? Once he answers, right to the next question. Hello? Engage the conversation. If I ask you, you grew up in Brooklyn, man, tell me how good was the pizza, man? Come on. If I never grew up in New York, you know what I mean? Like, how good was the pizza? How good was the bagels? You know what I mean? Like, shit like that. You're like, oh, okay, now look how much comfortable I'm making the person feel. You know what I mean? Like, oh shit, okay, he knows about the New York City, the pizza and the bagels, the food. He knows about that. It's like, wow, I would be if someone told me, hey Eddie, you played at Palm Beach Atlantic University, you're a Brooklyn boy, you grew up in Canarsie, and I'm like, oh shit, okay, let's talk. You know what I mean? Like, I love shit like that.
Yeah, the connection is so important, and times where, like you said, people just went right to the next question, like ignored the answer
Right.
and went right to the next question,
That
and like, are you listening?
right. And now when it comes to like people on the news, I could understand they're restricted.
They don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I could understand that, and it really makes it it it's like I wish they weren't restricted, that they could be free, but they are restricted, so they can't, like that Monday night football job that was offered to that former kicker that has a YouTube channel,
yes.
but he turned it down because he can't be himself, you know, and he's doing great on his YouTube channel. I forgot his name. He's a former kicker, but
Mm.
it's like you're free, you know. Joe Rogan, Howard Stern, you watch their interviews. It's never an interview style. They are shooting the shit style. They are bugging out with their guests. You know what I mean? They're opening up to them, and I love that.
You mentioned like Rogan, Stern, right? Rogan's caught a lot of attention lately, signed a huge deal with Spotify.
Oh yeah.
And you're in this space in a sense of, a few months ago, you said the show wasn't really a forefront thing for you. But now, because it's like, it's all we got, what are your plans like, with the show to develop it? Because you have all the control over the show. You have the guests, the length, you know what I'm saying, the direction. Um, what do you see for the show, short term, long term?
That's a great question. I don't even know, man. I really want my scripted show in acting called Who the Hell is Eddie Mata, what I mentioned earlier, is that
Yeah.
I want to show TV networks that I am a lovable character. And if you don't believe me, how did I get all of these people on my show? Think about it. I have 24 guests, big names. How did I do it? Because I'm lovable. So let's go. Let's do this show, baby. Here's a script. Simple as that. Now, that's my goal. I don't know when to approach sponsors right now. I don't know when to do that. I'm doing everything on my own. This is how I get them. Twitter is my ocean, and I go fishing there. My computer will be on Twitter all day, or on my phone if I'm not doing anything. And I'm like,
And it's funny because, right, you mentioned the MLB thing a few years ago, and you were like, "Yo, social media, yeah, sure, buddy." And now, right?
yeah,
Now
now
it's
it's like, oh shit. But remember, I was marketing for,
someone else, right, as
yeah,
opposed to yourself.
exactly.
Sure, big
Yeah,
difference.
yeah, huge difference. I was marketing for them, not for myself. So, um, so I get these athletes and actors on Twitter, and if you use social media, there is a lot of power in social media. Don't get me wrong. But, like yesterday, Tim Raines tweeted. So I replied, hey, why don't you come on my show? Trust me, you're going to love me. And I sent him a mini clip of Doc Gooden. That's how I got Dan Schulman. That's how I got Sean Casey. Freddie Coleman knows me. So I text him. I said, hey, Freddie, you know what I mean? Be heads up. I'm going to, get you in soon. He's like, yeah, absolutely. Whenever you're ready. Dick Vitale through Twitter, which was in September, he wants to talk to me about his book coming.
He is the salt of the earth. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, he's the best.
He is the best.
Yeah, I love him. I love his attitude, personality. Kenny Anderson, I knew through Twitter.
Love Kenny too.
Yeah,
Kenny's opened up a ton, and I give him a lot of credit for it because he's went through a lot of dark shit in his life, and
yeah, yeah.
the last 5 6 years has really like opened up a side that a lot of people did not know about Kenny.
Now, when I email publicists, I get declined all the time, and I'm like,
Yeah,
whatever, man. I'm like, when they tell me, oh, he's busy, I'm like, seriously, what's he doing right now that he's so busy? I want to hear this during our crisis. You know what I mean? Like, come on, what are you doing? I could understand if we didn't have a pandemic, but now if we didn't have a pandemic, you wouldn't hear the Eddie Mata show.
yeah, no, right.
You
But here we are, and this is like what we've been able to create out of this,
know?
right? And I think at the start when you said like, all right, I had to do something else. Well, what do New Yorkers do? We hit the ground and we go.
Yeah.
We find something. You mentioned Kenny. Growing up in New York City, can you explain how big of an athlete Kenny Anderson was at Malloy High School? Right. I know Kenny was a few years before you, but how much like Kenny was the man? And I don't think people realize that like Kenny was New York City high school basketball.
This is a great story. Kenny Smith.
Yep.
Kenny Smith, TNT.
He also went to Malloy, right?
They grew up in the same Left Rack City right here, right near us.
Yep.
And Kenny Smith was already an All American high school senior, right? And he's watching little Kenny Anderson at a middle school age just tearing it up on the basketball courts where they grew up. He's watching from his window and he's saying, I'm actually learning moves from him and I'm already an All American. That's how good Kenny Anderson was. Like, he was special. He was the Michael Jordan of high school basketball. Guy was just, and I asked Kenny, I said, you think you were born with that? He goes, I was born with that, without a doubt, with the talent, the ball handling and all that, without a doubt. But he also worked hard too, But he was naturally gifted. That's how special he was. Like you would hear stories, and I was still a kid. I think he's like 4 years older than me, Kenny Anderson.
Yep.
Is he close to 50 now?
I think so. That sounds about right. Yep.
But he was so special that that's all I was hearing about when I was in the 7th, 8th grade. Kenny Anderson, Kenny Anderson, Kenny Anderson. I was like, man, this guy's that good. And when you watch highlights, you're like, wow.
Yeah, I mean Kenny really couldn't be guarded.
Nobody could hold him. Nobody.
No, no, and I'm looking forward to you being able to speak to him because I think you guys will connect.
No, I talked to him already.
Yeah.
No, I interviewed him already.
Oh, my bad. I'll have to go back to our guy.
Okay, but yeah, I interviewed him. My first guy was Homer Bush. Because Yankees fantasy camp. After Homer Bush, I did this guy named Gino Caffarelli. He's an actor. He's in the movie Capone right now. And then after, I did Nicholas Gonzalez, the TV show, The Good Doctor, the actor. He was the lead.
Yep.
He was one of the leads. And then right after Nicholas was Darryl Strawberry. And I'm saying, look at the names I'm getting now. You know what I mean? And it just, it kept going and going. And people and I reached out to them. And they're like, yo, Eddie, I would love to. And that's the power of Twitter. When I just send a mini clip of previous interviews, they're like, oh, shit. Okay, who is this guy? They see my personality. They're like, yeah, I like this guy. All right, yeah, set it up.
There we go.
Yeah.
Eddie, what do you see happening in the next few months, right? Things are getting real strange with the virus. It's breaking out in other places. But, in terms of what you do, maybe for the rest of the summer going into the fall, what's on your docket? What do you see happening, bro?
I don't even know, man. It's, you have places like California, Texas, Arizona, Florida struggling right now. I don't even know. It's like, my thing is like, how am I going to hit on a girl when I go out now? How's she going to see my smile? You know what I mean? Like,
cover up the moneymaker. I mean, geez.
Right. It's like, like, It's so hard. You don't know, man. It's like, can you believe this is actually real? This is some shit that you would see in the movies. This is actually real.
Mhm.
I don't know what's gonna happen. What I'm afraid, if people as of right now, because look, I'll be honest, us New Yorkers, we were disciplined. We didn't beat it, but we flattened it, right? We're at
Yeah.
phase 4 coming up Monday. Little things are opening, but here was the panic mode that when Cuomo said, "Okay, indoor restaurants, we still can't do that right now." He's still afraid, which I could understand. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, let's still continue eating outdoors, right? That's fine with me. You know what I mean? But now, you don't understand how much I appreciate going out to outdoor dining and saying, "Holy shit, there's people around." We're still 6 feet away, but I appreciate that because it's like I've never been in prison in my life, but when you come out at this lockdown from your home, you're like, "Whoa, this is a great feeling. I can't believe this is happening. Holy
Yeah.
shit. Oh my god." And then you look in the past when people invited you to go out, you're like, "Nah, I don't want to go out. I'm tired. I want to stay in," right?
Right. Somebody calls you and you're like, when?
When? Where? I'm there. I don't care. I'll drive 80 miles if I have to. I don't care. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So, so I don't know what's gonna happen, but I hope it gets better, man. That's all I'm praying for. Just get better. I don't know what else to say about that situation. Just
Right.
better.
And I guess until it does, right, you're gonna continue with the show.
Yeah, I'm definitely continuing. I'm kind of slumping this week. I have nobody. I had 3 people last week, but when I say slumping, meaning I don't have anybody now this week, but I'm still on Twitter. I'm doing. Put it this way, I'm doing everything on my own. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to do none of this stuff. You know, I have a friend named Jason Valerio. He does the nameplates for me. When you see on my show, you see the nameplates. He does
Yeah.
that for me. He's really, I'm like, hey, I gotta, I got Dominic Lombardozzi tomorrow, quick. Vincent D'Onofrio, I got him tomorrow, quick. You know what I mean? That's all. But then I gotta cut out mini clips, and so for them to retweet it, I gotta do all that stuff on my own. I'm the one. I do everything on my own. I'm booking the talent. I'm the one that's on Twitter, or someone gives me their contact and I email them. I gotta do all that stuff on my own. It's hard.
I don't think people realize, brother, like, as like an independent artist, you are a team of one. Like Eddie Mata business is just like me, Nick Dianti, like you're a business of one until you can afford a team.
Yeah.
And until then, like, yeah, you're splicing and dicing and, promoting and retweeting and Instagramming and, everything else, TikTok, whatever. Like you're cutting it up and you're putting it on as many places as you can and you're a one man show. What does that mean? Things don't get done as quickly. You know what I'm saying? Like
I
you don't have a post production
yeah.
team that can cut everything up and
Oh
upload it
my
at the same
god.
time.
I wish I had that. So whoever's listening right now, you want to be my intern, just
Yeah.
hit me up, like, because it is tough, man. And but the focus is the interview, the preparation for me.
Yeah.
I do tons of research. Tons. I want to know what people don't know. Vincent D'Onofrio was a great example. I'm like, listen, you were a bodyguard, you were a bouncer. So you're 6'4". Did you ever run into trouble? Like, you got to throw the guy out? Like, to tell me stories about that instead of, oh, you were a bouncer and this and that. No. People don't know how Vincent got the movie Full Metal Jacket. And the reason I'm talking about Vincent because that's my last interview.
Sure, it's fresh.
Yeah. He was on the streets in New York City. Matthew Modine, which is one of the main characters in the film in Full Metal Jacket, he's the one that was teaching him how to use the gun and all that. He knew Matthew Modine because they took a couple of acting classes together. They knew of each other. So he's walking with his wife, Matthew, and all of a sudden, Vincent says, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, I'm doing good right now. I'm gonna be going back to London, shooting this film with Stanley Kubrick, and there's a part you should audition for. He's like, really? He's like, yeah. And I asked Vincent. I said, Vincent, if you didn't meet Matthew and his wife on the streets that day, would you be in Full Metal Jacket right now? He goes, absolutely not. People don't
Right place, right time.
timing. It was a great accident. It was a good accident that became a great accident. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. It's important to have relationships with everybody. Like, I'm talking to you, and if you mention something that what you really want to do, and I know somebody, and I'm like, yo, listen, I got this guy, listen, call him up. You know what I mean? Relationship
Sure.
is the key. The networking, when I say networking, I mean relationship. That's more important. Talk to the guy, hey, what's going on, this and that.
Because look, dude, you're in that world, right? Like you're in acting, and bullshitters are a dime a dozen, right? Oh, let's network. I was in music for a long time, man. It's the biggest piece of bullshit that I heard. Yo, let's network, let's politic, let's do something. Like, and nothing ever comes out of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it is about building relationships because it can't be like a use situation. That gets old real quick.
Yeah, yeah. To me, relationships. It's like I even asked a lot of these actors, and they're like, Eddie, I got most of my parts through relationships. I didn't have to audition. You meet the guy or the woman, you have, you guys connect, and boom. And from there, you become Facebook friends, this and that. All of a sudden, you're posting of what you did. That person sees it, like, you know what? I think he'll be good for that. Hey, I'm doing this short film, or I'm doing this. I'd love for you to come in, shoot the shit with us, this and that. Just like that. Relationships.
No truer words. The relationships are super important, and I think that's an overlooked thing. When whatever industry you're in, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to relationship build, and I think people, the longer that they're in stuff, they can just see right through it when someone's like just trying to come in and say, "What can I get out of this?" 'Cause it
Right.
can't always be, "What can I get out of this?"
Yeah.
Right? Like there's got to be that give, or even if it's neutral, like let's just make the relationship, and you're a cool person to talk to or what have you, and even if nothing comes out of it, people can see it when you're sitting on it. And you're like, I need something out of this.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
way too
So,
obvious. It's
yeah.
definitely obvious. So Eddie, where can they catch the show? It's I know it's on YouTube, but how can people connect with you?
Well,
If they want to reach out.
here's the thing. My audience is more on Facebook page, the Eddie Mata Show. You could
Mhm.
go to that, the Eddie Mata Show. You could definitely go on YouTube. I don't get any views on YouTube. I don't know why. I'm like, man, I got these stars. I'm like, what is going on with me? I don't know. Um, but I just put it there as another platform. The more platforms you have, the better it is. You could reach me on Twitter, Eddie Mata, Facebook, The Eddie Mata Show, YouTube, The Eddie Mata Show, Instagram. I just opened up the account like 2 weeks ago, The Eddie Mata Show. If you want to reach me personally, you could go on a regular Instagram, Eddie Mata 1, EDDIEMATA 1. And yeah, look, I have a lot of inspiring hosts, people, media asking me questions. Who the hell are you? Who the hell are you? How are you getting these people? What's the key? And I say, look, either you have it or you don't. You gotta have a human connection. You can't be that typical, let's say, a reporter or a journalist that's general. People don't like that. It's the same thing. When you're starting to date a woman and a woman's going to settle down with you, she's going to ask, is this the guy that I want to be with? Does he have value? Is this the guy that's going to make me laugh? Is this the guy that's good with family and friends? Is he the guy that just makes me laugh so much? He's there for me. You know, that's not general. That's a specific person that you invest your time in. And that's what you
Right.
understand.
Right. It's about that being able to make that investment, even if it's during something shorter like an interview, right? Does that person who you're talking to want to make an investment to open up and speak at length and not cut the interview after 6 minutes because they're bored or they have to go,
Right. Yeah.
right? Can they open up and do it? Eddie, we could talk, I'm sure, a much longer time. I
Oh,
really appreciate you coming on and, hanging out and telling your story and giving people a taste, because this is definitely a far leap from the Astoria Sports Complex where I knew you way, way, way back when. You talk about giving hitting lessons, right?
yeah.
This is a long journey that's, from there, and, to see you come and, develop and watch you move has been, real awesome. So I appreciate it, dude.
No, no. Listen, I appreciate for you reaching out to me, and just you take care of the present, the future will take care of itself. But if you just focus on the future, you're not going to do anything about it. You got to take care of now, and the future will take care of itself. So that's my
Yeah,
thing. Is like focus on now what you could do, and then like I have no control right now as far as acting. There's nothing going on. But I'll tell you one thing: I am prepared when there is. you know. So right now, acting is on hold for now because you can't really do anything. So you take care of the present. So what are you gonna do now, Eddie? Okay, well, you know what? Let me shoot the shit with actors and athletes. Take care of the present. I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but I can focus on what's going on now. I'm talking to a handsome bastard like you, and we're having fun. That's the bottom
right.
line. You know what I'm saying?
That is it, Eddie. This has been excellent.